Well, a judge's ruling this week could have an impact on how business news, specifically stock ratings, make their way to investors. The website, Flyonthewall.com, was barred from issuing immediate reports on stock upgrades and downgrades for 3 banks: Barclays, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and Morgan Stanley. What will the impact be on how you get your business news and how you invest? Joining us now is former federal prosecutor Doug Burns. He has more than 2 decades of experience in business litigation and SEC and regulatory cases. Doug, who is also a happy man because we just learned that Cornell has beat Temple in the NCAA tournament.
I'm very happy, and my son's even happier. He's up there.
Well, glad to hear it. So, Doug, you know, when you look at this fly-on-the-wall case, talk to us about the implications of this, as we just talked about. What is it going to mean for people trying to get this research?
Well, first of all, it's a very interesting case. The case was basically an intellectual property case. They said, look, you're violating copyright laws and you're misappropriating valuable business assets. In other words, the banks have in-house research divisions. Okay, they're being paid to create reports, and because of this media world we live in with the internet, the stuff's getting disseminated around. Maybe there are leaks from inside whatever, and so the lawsuit was to enjoin Fly on the Wall from disseminating it until a certain time, which is, by the way, 10 a.m. or half an hour after the market opens, whichever is later. And then, sorry to ramble on, if they issue stuff during the day, they have to wait 2 hours.
Doug, why do you think the banks went after Fly? I mean, you know, speaking as somebody who works at Bloomberg, we also communicate stock research frequently. Reuters communicates stock research. There are other outlets. Why go after Fly?
It's a great question. That's the key, because you know, both Reuters and Bloomberg were asked to comment. They didn't. Nothing to be read by that. But the point is, very often in litigations, A sues B when C, D, and E are doing the same thing as B, and that's what your question is all about. I don't really purport to specifically know exactly why they went after this particular entity, but I would venture to say that they felt that the particular violations and disseminations were acute. You follow me?
Just because they feel that somebody else was doing it wrong, that doesn't mean that you can engage in the same type of action?
Yeah, see, that's a good point, because right in the court's opinion, by the way, there was language. The judge was saying, don't argue to me that other people are doing the same thing. That was specifically raised. She said, because it doesn't matter. In a lawsuit, there's a certain purity. You're before me, you're doing something wrong. It's nothing more complicated than, what are you pulling me over speeding? Everybody else is going 80 miles an hour. It doesn't matter.
But does this have implications for the other news outlets that also?
Yes. Oh, no, I think it does. I think basically anytime there's a litigation like this and you have this result, people are saying, well, wait a minute, am I the next defendant? But let me just throw in one caveat, which is I was a little surprised. The lawyer for Fly on the Wall said this ruling flies directly in the face of, you know, existing law. Now, that's problematic because, number one, it's a very strong statement. Number two, it's not generally considered wise in my profession, seriously, to openly criticize a judge's ruling like that.
Basically said he doesn't know what she's talking about, and she didn't know how to apply
so that was surprising. But let's take what he says with some grain of creditability. It is going to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in downtown Manhattan, and maybe they will reverse it. It's hard to say.
Okay, you note that there are 2 legal theories at play here. The first one is copyright infringement. The second, common law misappropriation of commercially valuable business property.
Under New York common law.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So one is a federal copyright statute. They say the material's protected and you violated this federal section. The other one is a common law New York principle, which is if you have something valuable, I can't misappropriate it to myself.
Quick question here.
Sure.
These employees, perhaps folks who disseminated this information, do they have anything to worry about?
No, that's an excellent point, and I was thinking about that coming in here. In other words, my first question, I was discussing this with some people, is where did they get the information in the first place? And I was thinking that there must have been some leak or sieve from employees at the banks. You're right. So that could be the next thing, too. Maybe. Hard to say.
I mean, it's hard to know as an outsider if these folks even still have their jobs, for example.
Where they get the information. That's right. Absolutely.
All right, Doug Burns, thanks for talking to us about this. We'll keep following it and maybe have you back in to talk about it.
Thank you so much, and go Big Red.
Developments.
Thanks, Doug.